Social media influencers charged in a massive $114 million pump and dump stock scheme. Which, by the way, I always get like a really creepy feeling anytime I see someone trying to promote like stocks or like crypto specifically. Because it's such a disgusting feeling because you know more than likely they are just scamming people, right? So, eight social media influencers were charged with using their online fame to artificially inflate the value of stocks in a pump and dump scheme that reaped about $114 million, federal prosecutors announced Wednesday. Which, by the way, people might seem like, oh, people might stumble upon this and say, like, that seems kind of crazy. Like, how could it potentially make that much money? What people need to understand is that if they are promoting like penny stocks, things that are worth like a few cents, and they pump it up with their audience to where like those stocks are potentially now worth like $10, $20 a share, and they sell everything, well, they can make millions of dollars in like literally 5 seconds, right? Well, maybe not even 5 seconds, more like maybe like a minute for like the trades to actually process. But yeah, you could end up making millions upon millions upon millions of dollars in a single trade, all because if you have like an audience. And this is the sad thing because you never really know whether or not a stock or a crypto will actually increase. You can make like a guess, you can maybe make like a gamble, like a bet, but you never really know, right? Now, you could pretty much assume that like the S&P 500 based off its historical data will probably continue to rise over the years on average, right? Which is why a lot of people that aren't trying to scam people suggest like, oh, like if you don't have time to really do any research on like individual companies, going into something like the S&P 500 or like a mutual fund that trades the whole stock market isn't that bad of an idea, right? To make a okay return every year, right? But if someone tries to tell you like, oh, for sure, stock H2O will go to the moon or something, they're probably going to be scamming you. Like, you got to be really careful anytime you see someone promoting a specific security, specific coin, or whatever, right? Because, like, why are they promoting that coin? Why are they promoting that stock? Right? Like, why are they doing that? The reason for it is because they're trying to make a crap ton of money off of it. Like, this is the thing, right? So, for example, our business really focuses on helping people get out of debt. Okay. And we also suggest people like if you want to get involved in towards investing, which we can't really tell you specifically what to invest in, what we would put our money in would be the S&P 500, right? Because one, it provides a dividend. It typically, based off historical data, goes. You basically invest into multiple companies. Is pretty lower risk compared to like individual stocks. And the best part about it is like you don't really got to necessarily think about it. But we can't guarantee that that thing's going to be going up. Like you can't guarantee that. But these people who do this sort of stuff are just honestly kind of pisses me off because it you're just blatantly scamming people, which is such a sad thing. Because like it's one thing to sell a product and people may not just like your product, right? That's a completely different thing. But for you to basically say like, "Hey, this stock is going to increase in value. Buy in now." While at the same time you're holding that stock already and then you sell it at the peak to make as much money as possible and you're screwing pretty much the 90% of your followers, Yeah, that's a pretty screwed up thing to do, you know? So the eight men purported to be successful traders on platforms like Twitter and Discord to tout small cap firms and then sell them at a profit while leaving unwitting retail investors holding the bag, according to prosecutors in the Southern District of Texas. Which, by the way, just to keep this in mind, like when I was a lot younger, getting involved into like the stock market, investing, all that kind of stuff, right? I stumbled upon a story where like someone made like $50 million because they illegally pumped up a stock to a company that they created in a fake way. Like the company never really existed, but on paper it did, and on the stock market it did. Right? It was such a really weird situation, but like the price of those stock shares was like I think like zero point zero 0.01 cents, and then they got it up, they pumped it up all the way up to I think like $9 a share, and they made million upon millions of dollars off of that because they owned all of the stock, but they were able to pay like these like penny stock websites to promote that stock, and it basically pumped it all the way up, and they just sold pretty much all of the shares of that company that never really existed legitimately and made millions upon millions of dollars, which by the way, funny enough, I believe they also got like arrested in like some other country that they lived in, which is kind of hilarious, but yeah. So the Securities and Exchange Commission said it has filed related civil charges against the defendants in the scheme, claiming that seven of the defendants used Twitter and Discord to boost stocks. It said the eighth was charged with aiding and abetting the scheme with his podcast. Well, that's interesting. So the eight influencers charged were Perry Matlock, known by the Twitter handle at PJ Matlock, Edward Constantin at Mr. Zach Morris, Thomas Cooperman at Oh Hey Tommy, Gary Deal at Notorious Alerts, Mitchell Hennessy at Hugh Henney, well, Hugh underscore Henney, Stephen H.R. Vaughton at Laid Back with two Ks, John Rybarsix at Ultra underscore calls, and Daniel Knight at Dip Deity. So the SEC's complaint included tweets from several of the defendants showing them flaunting pricey cars, including McLarens, Ferraris, and Lamborghinis. Now here's the thing. There's nothing wrong with showing off a pretty cool car. What's wrong about what they were doing was that they were showing these extremely pricey cars paid for by money from stock market pump and dumps that they were doing to get more people into their follower base so that they could keep pumping more and more stocks to make more and more dollars, right? Now, if they were like, driving these cars around or whatever, promoting like a product, it'd be completely something different. But they were promoting basically them like doing like stock market picks for specific stocks while at the same time pretty much screwing over all of their followers. Like it's just such a disgusting thing. So PJ Matlock, who pleaded not guilty following his arrest on Tuesday, is shown behind the wheel of McLaren according to a court filing. Which I'm also guessing this is him too. So PJ Matlock, 38 of the Woodlands, Texas, had more than 340,000 followers as of Wednesday. And here's the thing, right? You were able to get 340,000 followers. How come you couldn't just make like a legitimate product that people can buy where you can make millions of dollars from that product, from the sale of that product? Like, for example, say that you were actually knowledgeable at like researching individual stock companies, right? But not specific companies, but just be like, okay, say like this. Maybe this individual could have created a course of like, okay, this is how you research a company to see whether or not it might be a potential buy to invest in, right? Or gamble on or whatever, right? Maybe structure it like that. We're like, okay, this is the process that I use to try to find good companies to try to make a bet on, right? It's like basically say like this is what I try to do. There's no guaranteed results at all, but this is just the process that I use to try to find good stocks. If they did something like that, maybe charge like $500, $1,000, $2,000 plus, one, they wouldn't be getting arrested because one, they wouldn't be making guarantees about anything. They wouldn't be pumping up anything. They would just be sharing knowledge of how they would go about in doing something, which is perfectly legal. Now, there could be people who maybe buy that product and not like it and maybe complain about it, but is completely different than people basically pumping up a stock, specific stocks, and also screwing their followers that buy into those stocks. Because imagine some of their followers put like 10 grand, 50 grand, maybe even 100 grand or more into these stocks that they pumped up. And then they just lost every single cent. Like, it's such a disgusting thing to do. So, as our complaint states, the defendants used social media to amass a large following of Novus investors and then took advantage of their followers by repeatedly feeding them a steady diet of misinformation, which resulted in fraudulent profits of approximately $100 million, said Josephine Sanson, who heads the SEC Enforcement Division's Market Abuse Unit. And hey, props to you, Joseph Sanson, because the biggest problem that I have saying something like this is that you are purposely screwing people over. Like, you're not like, oh, I sold a product and my customers didn't like the product, right? You specifically pumped up very specific securities and screwed your customers over. Again, like it's such a disgusting feeling. So today's action exposes the true motivation of these alleged fraudsters and serves as another warning that investors should be wary of unsolicited advice they encounter online. I agree, right? So let's see. On December 30th, 2021, Konstantin tweeted. So Zach Morris at Mr. Zach Morris, treat yourself, and he's standing in front of a Ferrari, which, by the way, is a cool looking Ferrari. But at the same time, you made this money by screwing over all the people that follow you. So Edward Constantin, the Houston resident whose handle at Mr. Zach Morris is inspired by the fictional character from the hit 1990s era sitcom Saved by the Bell, boasts more than 551,000 Twitter followers. And again, like, why couldn't you just create a product, right? Why couldn't you create like an ebook, a t-shirt, a hat, a course, but a course specifically not on anything like a specific stock, but just basically how you would maybe try to find a good stock? Like, I just don't understand, one, how people could be so blatant about their scams like this, right? Lord. So Matlock38 of the Woodlands, Texas, had more than 340,000 Twitter followers as of Wednesday. He was pictured behind the wheel of a black and orange McLaren in court documents. He pleaded not guilty following his arrest, blah, 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 blah. His attorney did not respond to a request for comment. According to the SEC's complaint, Raya Barzisk tweeted a photo of himself with a Lamborghini Aventador SVJ Roadster, which has a starting price of nearly $600,000. And he also did not respond to a request for comment. And he basically has this, I guess, as their handle. The stock Sniper at ultra underscore cause. 2021 Lamborghini Aventador SVJ Roadster at Lamborghini. Welcome to the family heart emoji. Which again, the Lamborghini Aventador SVJ looks like a really cool car. Which, by the way, one of the best YouTube channels that actually showcases this car is Daily Driven Exotics, DDE. But guess what? They don't do any scams to like make the money to buy the car. No, they create content which they get paid for ad revenue on there. They create their own merchandise because they're like a lifestyle brand, right? Like they don't make any sort of like promises like, "Oh, you are going to for sure grow your money by buying this specific stock," right? Like, ugh, Lord. Which, by the way, as like an example of what someone could do if, say, they had like $600,000 to like invest in or spend, right? One, I wouldn't do that on a car unless you're like making like $3 million a year or something at least. But like, for example, if I had the choice to spend like 600 grand, and how would I do that? I would probably put $300,000 into paid off real estate to try to rent it out for some cash flow that could provide me some sort of income per month due to the rental income. But that'd also be a hassle to deal with because you got a renter. And then I'll put the other $300,000 personally. What I would do would be putting it into like the S&P 500, right? Because it provides a dividend. It probably will double every 10 years based off just compound interest, based off historical data. But that doesn't mean that that's a guarantee, but I would be comfortable with putting my money into the S&P 500, me personally, right? I'd also be comfortable with putting that into paid off real estate that could potentially have a renter that would pay me a monthly rental income, right? Both are pretty safe things to get involved in, and definitely nothing as stupid as buying a Lamborghini Aventador SVJ to continue to scam more followers. Because I bet you, after he posted this photo of his Lamborghini Aventador SVJ, he probably got a few $100,000, potentially even millions more of potential pump and dumps just from posting the photo of this car. Because one, people are gullible, and two, people are greedy, and three, people want to find a quick way to get rich. Ba-ba-ba. So also, Konstantin is a co-founder of Atlas Trading, a stock trading forum on Discord, the social media app that is particularly popular with the gamer community. So Knight is alleged to have played a part in this game by co-hosting a podcast in which he promoted several of the social media personalities as expert stock traders. The podcast co-host, who allegedly provided them with a forum for their manipulative statements, also traded in concert with the other defendants and regularly generated profits from the manipulation, according to the SEC. Deal also didn't respond to requests for comment, and the other five defendants could not be reached. So let's check out some of these comments on this article. For the 10,000th time, always follow the money. Due diligence is way more than believing what some opinionated person says on the internet. Price earnings ratios are omniimportant, and yes, time to crack down big time on the insider trading stuff as well. Throw them all in the clink and take their toys and houses away. And here's the thing, personally, I think that they should all go to jail because they didn't just like steal money from like a massive corporation. They stole money from individuals and potentially massive amounts of money, right? By purposely misleading them, which is sad, right? Like they are purposely harming other people just so that they can make a quick buck. Let's see. So why should this be illegal? All products are sold by pumping them up. Are home flippers pumping and dumping? We need more buyer beware and less government intervention. So this person says it's illegal because they are getting people to invest their money in a stock that the criminals will artificially manipulate until it's high enough for them to cash out, which will make the stock crash. Since the criminals are the only ones to know when they will cash out and make the stock crash, they get the money and all the other people that trusted them when they said it was a great stock lose theirs. Would you think it's fair if someone you knew told you about a great stock investment so you invested your savings in it only to find out it was never a great stock to begin with and the other person you knew took all the money so left you with none? Basically taking all of your money, right? Yeah, pretty bad feeling. Let's see, yeah, I agree. If these people are telling people that it's a great stock to buy, then people need to investigate for themselves. But hey, it's typical America now. Let's blame someone else for our foolishness. Now, here's the thing, right? I understand their line of thinking, but at the same time, these individuals were purposely screwing over their fans. Like, that ain't cool. That is horrible. The damage done to elderly and other individuals' retirement accounts by these thieves is worse than the fentanyl crisis. We need to make prison hard labor for the Freeds, Madoffs, and Milkins. Okay? Maybe I'm alone in thinking this, but nobody forced anyone to buy anything. Anyone who invests because of what they see on the internet is a fool. Computer scammers who prey on elderly, throw the book at them. But that's not the case here. Sorry for anyone that lost money, but do your own research first. Again, I understand the line of thinking that this person has. But the issue is they were probably portraying themselves as experts when they were not, and people put their trust in them, but they were basically constantly being lied to. I can't believe people would be dumb enough to fall for this from a stranger. I learned my lesson from coworkers in the company I worked for 20 years ago when they overinflated the company's stock. After many employees bought it, raising the value, the higher ups suddenly sold all of theirs, which caused ours to crash to rock bottom. I held on to it for over a year, waiting for it to go back up, but it didn't, so I ended up selling it at a loss. Never again. And here's the thing, this is basically why it's typically not advised by like financial advisors and all that kind of stuff to go into individual stocks, right? Because the thing is, for like people could get technically lucky by like gambling, right? But at the same time, like it's usually the safe, like a safer bet to just invest into a whole bunch of different companies, basically diversifying your investment by doing something like investing into the S&P 500 or, you know, doing like a total stock market index fund. I personally like index funds because they just cover a whole broad spectrum of things. I agree they should have investigated before buying, but there are laws that were broken. Permit this to happen, they intended for this to happen. I deal with a well known investment company and never question their choices. Fools and their money. Yeah, okay. Feel free to give your thoughts on this. I just wanted to really like cover this because one, anytime I see someone like pumping up like a crypto coin or stock, I always get like a really weird chill down my spine because I'm like just thinking how many people and how much money was lost because of this, right? Like it scares me to see the type of money that people lose in like betting on these sort of things, right? I'm pretty certain I've seen someone say before where they got involved in like a pump and dump, like they were like a victim of it, and they put their whole retirement in it because they were practically guaranteed, at least that's what it was claimed by the person pumping it, and they lost everything. Like that's such a depressing thing to see. Like imagine working 20 plus years of your life, saving your money, putting it into retirement, having your 401k go over there, getting like the company match, all that kind of stuff, and then you put it into something like this and you lose every single cent. Like that's a really dark moment. Like if you worked your whole life, put all of your money into one of these stocks, and then lost it all. Like I don't know how I would react because that is such a scary situation. Because that just basically made the past 20 something years of your life, all that hard work, almost worthless, you know?